least, and additional comments were still received. And the fourth and final draft was released and was the one that went to the April 15th Planning and Zoning Board, still collected feedback and made adjustments to the May 12th. And we even have additional feedback and corrections leading up to this final hearing. So tonight, with CPA 25001, this is the second reading and the adoption consideration for the comprehensive plan changes. Where this all began, of course, the county is growing, and in response to that growth, 190,200 persons by 2050. You can see where the concentration is happening in these orange circles along SR 200, and the majority of that population is right there at the heart of center of it all, SR 200, which is where this overlay is established. In terms of public action, through that SR 200 A1A corridor master plan, 12 initial public actions, and then those 5 planning priorities that were established from that engagement: nurture nature, grow sustainably, connect communities, catalyze culture, and future-proof. And just one of these policies is timber to tines. It's to establish a form-based code. But the 200 master plan and that resolution that set forth these actions goes well beyond that. And we're continuing to monitor its progress and making sure that we reach all the objectives from our master plan. Of course, the idea is you're gravitating from strips to centers. You're creating compact density, mixed-use forms, creating pedestrian-oriented environments. You're improving the tree canopy. You're doing pedestrian-first design, lower speed at intersections, human-scale streetscapes. Why, are we making this transition? That Euclidean zoning or our normal zoning code, it's from the 70s. We've had it forever. It doesn't talk about contextually that building relationship in the streetscape elements. You see in that top image up here, this pedestrian trying to cross the street under a conventional zoning system, and encourages single-use development. As you see this transitioning image, as we go down to form-based codes, we begin to talk about the relationship of bringing buildings closer to the road, the relationship of adding additional shade trees and tree wells. We also start to think about the relationship of these corners and the ability for the pedestrian to cross these roads. And at the end of the day, we're looking to create that public identity, those robust environments that we recognize as town centers, as commercial revitalization, as places and destinations that service our communities. In terms of private property rights, we do have information on our website, nassaucountyfl.com/1397, where you get copies of all this draft information as well as additional details. But common questions: overlay would apply to new development, redevelopment, changes of use within the designated area. Existing properties may continue their current use. No changes are required unless redevelopment or zoning changes proposed by the owner. Homeowners would not be required to change anything. Standard maintenance, repairs, accessory structures, and new single-family homes on existing lots are not subject to the overlay unless a rezoning or major development is proposed. The overlay does not automatically rezoning properties. Rezoning will only occur if initiated by the property owner. We also did a analysis of GAI consultants evaluating 2 different corridors, Maitland and Fern Park, that had similar corridor characteristics, 4 6-lane highways, incorporation of form-based codes, as well as higher standard developments, to determine whether or not these standards would inhibit development or would overall have higher property values. And the result of that analysis was economic development outcomes between corridors with and without enhanced development standards were generally modest over the 15-year evaluation period. Those higher standards exhibited slightly higher compound annual growth rates and might also reasonably be expected to provide a boost in long-term employment over a period of 15 to 25 years, as well as market performance, wage-related economic growth. Stronger design standards did not appear to hinder development. Higher standard corridors demonstrated stronger outcomes related to design cohesion, place-based identity, and overall community characters. And that development standard impact analysis is part of your part of this record, as well as an executive summary is also provided in this record. This is consistent with Florida Statute 163.31682, Planning Innovations and Technical Assistance. In terms of our consistency, this implements the policy FL 0206, which is considered for adoption to support the SR 200A18 Corridor Master Plan. It aligns with our Vision 2032 plan, supports the goals of the future land use settlement, establishes the regular plan Flume Map 11 and is compatible with existing land development code provisions. In conclusion, this amendment is in conformance with Florida statutes and the goals and objectives of the policies of the comprehensive plan. This does not conflict with the LDC, Code of Ordinances, or other county regulatory documents. Based on these findings, staff recommends approval of CPA 25-001, adopting the future land use map series Flume Map 11, adopting the timber to tides design overlay Transix, adopting timber to tides design overlay. Planning and Zoning Board voted for approval on April 15th, and the board voted to transmit these documents back on May 12th. And in terms of those state agency comments, many were no comments or looking forward to the submission of individual parcels for review. Because this does not grant entitlement, you still need to apply for that transect. And staff's available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McVicker. I'm going to open the floor for public comment. I have speaker cards. Ms. Glenda Jenkins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Glenda Simmons Jenkins, 96091 LS Marston Drive. I am the Executive Director of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Community Trust. Some of you, if you've had a history lesson, have heard of the Tulsa Race Massacre. And I only bring it up because there's a zoning piece in the history of that massacre that I find to be applicable to timber to tides. Following the massacre, when all of the black landowners of the Greenville district in Tulsa returned to their homes that had been set on fire and burned to the ground, they, of course, made immediate plans to rebuild. County officials decided, however, to extend fire codes into the Greenville district, and that would have then required the now homeless property owners to rebuild with fire-resistant materials rather than at the materials that they used initially, and this would have been, of course, fire-resistant materials, cost prohibitive. So in Tulsa County case number 15730, Joe Lockhart versus T.D. Evans et al., attorneys for the landowners successfully defeated the regulations in part due to the winning argument that the plaintiffs were being denied the right to use their land by a law that had also not been adequately or properly noticed. Timber to Tides raises similar concerns about residents' ability to rebuild. In particular, some property owners in the community on Mount Zion Loop have residential land uses under commercial zoning, and a commercial flume amendment passed in 2006 when they received what amounts to, in my estimation, PUD rights. This likely means that even without timber to tides, any property that sells or that is taken by eminent domain by a government agency or utility will already have commercial development rights inside a residential legacy cultural heritage community. The G. Prince subdivision dates back to the 1920s. Reverend Prince was a supervisor in the turpentine industry. They called him a woods rider because he rode horseback through the pine trees, ensuring that the work of collecting sap and tar from the trees was completed properly. He purchased his land on the north and south side of A1A between Baker Drive and Mount Zion Loop, and he sold lots and established a Gullah Geechee community anchored by a family compound of his adult children. The community became known as Princeville, and it has been for decades a haven for the descendants of enslaved Africans. Reverend Prince was a pastor. He was a builder of homes and houses of worship before State Road 200A1A even existed. And like communities all across the U.S., the interstate highway system and its state roadways deliberately mapped a path through black-owned land and through Reverend Prince's land for A1A. Timber to Tides, no matter how often it's been presented to the community and no matter how diligently staff have worked on it, is the wrong plan for the Gullah Geechee community because it erases us. It does not enhance our quality of life. It does not help to sustain the culture for which the county has reclaimed its appreciation. And if I could just have a few more seconds. On the contrary, it puts our quality of life in jeopardy. Finally, rather than correcting inequities of the past, it builds on them, increasing the likelihood that the living history of Reverend G.E. Prince and all of the families for whom he made the proverbial American dream possible will be pressured, coerced, or forced to sell their wealth and their family's future for short-term gain, while developers secure their family's wealth for generations to come on the backs of Reverend Prince's and our ancestors' sacrifices. Thank you for listening, and I do appreciate staff who has responded to my emails and has also been willing to meet with me, and I will be meeting with them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mike Mullen?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mike Mullen, 3272 First Avenue. I remembered how to do that, so it took me all this time. It's nice to be here. The only one who looks older is Mr. Pope. I remember when Mr. Pope had hair. That was how long ago it was. But I'm here on behalf of several property owners that contacted me 2 years ago, actually a year ago, and said, tell me about timber to tides. They own land, some developed, some undeveloped. And then they came on board, and so they said, you got to go say, we are in favor of, not everything, but that's to be expected. But they are in favor of it. I started following the process, not only going to your workshops, meeting with your staff. And first of all, I have to say kudos to you for having the future to look ahead, to see the future. This is the future. This is not going to affect most of us today, but it will in the future. So you had that, and you directed your staff, plus your staff, it's been tireless on there, because I've been out there many times on behalf of property owners saying, how about could you change this? When they've done that, they brought it back to you, made the changes. They've listened tirelessly to everybody, to me and others who had questions, issues, whether they were developed, undeveloped. And the number of workshops you've had probably exceeds any local government that I'm familiar of, and even local government that I was familiar with when I was here before. And you've done everything to make sure everybody understands it. And again, you're not going to get 100%. I understand that. But again, my people who come to me as a consultant are in favor of it. They think it benefits them in the long run and in the short run. But the future, you determine that. I think you deserve great credit for doing this. I think it'll inure to all our benefits. And if there are changes that need to be made, like everything else you do, they can be made. When people say this is not working, I haven't seen you as a commission in the years you've been on this commission ever say, no, we're not going to listen to you. And I think that's evident by the number of people who've attended here tonight, and it's to your benefit to do that. But give your staff credit, and the public needs to know how much your staff has worked, bent over backwards to accommodate and answer every question, large or small. So I hope you pass this tab. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Ms. Heather Hagan?
Hello,
Good evening.
Heather Hagan, 45639 Musselwhite Road, Callahan, Florida. Ready? So I'm here by the Timber to Tides development. I've met with Josh and Elizabeth, the planning and zoning people, several times in the course of the last year. I own 50 acres on State Road 200, almost across from Tributary, actually across from Police Lodge Road. At the beginning of this design, the mobility road that went through my property was not there. It was added at the end of last year. So it essentially now takes my 50 acres and cuts it in half. They also added an east-west road to run along parallel to 200, which now would cut my 50 acres into 4 quadrants. The east-west road ends at a DOT retention pond on the parcel next to it. It goes to nowhere. The one going west will go through the neighboring property and end at a creek. It's a road to nowhere. They've also implemented an 8-foot, 10-foot wide sidewalk to run along the front of my property. Again, a sidewalk to nowhere that I would be forced to put in and pay for. I met with them because the 50 acres that I do own, we are working on a recreation center there. It would take up 25 acres. 25 acres. It would have a skating rink, pickleball courts, kids splash park, miniature golf, laser tag, merry-go-round, bumper cars. It would employ over 200 individuals. And I am not opposed to development and making sure everything's developed right, except for when you're taking a parcel of land and you're cutting it all up, and our plans were presented well ahead of time. This is something that would benefit this community greatly, where our residents do not have to travel outside of Nassau County. We have firms that want to bring batting cages here, baseball fields, and right now, our residents are traveling to Duval County for these. They're not coming here. And this would be a park where families could come and spend the whole day there. I have 2 restaurants that want to come. They're not chain restaurants. They're individuals in this county that I have agreed to work with them in starting their own business so that they could have their dream. And this is on my parcel of land. So adopting this particular part on the western piece of 95, it's going to inhibit what we want to do and bring to this county. By making my property into 4, it's just not advantageous. And we won't be able to do the things we can do for the county. So that was all. I guess you can't really see a map, but yeah, it's on there. It's my property. It's a DOT retention pond. We can't put a road to nowhere. And this is my parcel. Road just goes east and west to nowhere. All expense to me, and I'm already putting in a very expensive project for this county. So, thank you.
Pardon me, Ms. Hagan.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have electronic copies of those documents that you can send to us?
I can get them to you, yes.
I will need to give them to the clerks for the record, if that's possible.
Sure.
You can send them to my attention. I'll make sure they get to the clerk.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
I see Commissioner.
Commissioner McCullough.
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate that I ask Mr. Macbeth about the roads? Would that be at your pleasure or no, Mr.
So,
Putnam?
You can certainly ask questions.
Okay,
We're
I just
not
don't-
quite, I was
Okay,
going to get
we'll
to
wait
the
on
comment
that.
first. If you
Okay,
want to
yes,
note your
sir.
question,
I
then
put a
we'll-
note. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
thanks.
Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, that's all I have for public comment. I have you under M, ma'am? Okay, would you like to step up now, ma'am? This would be Ms. Sweeney? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Laura Sweeney, 23615 Bahama Point. I have a couple of things that I don't understand about timber to tide, and I don't think a lot of people also understand it. The variances are going to come. We have a lot of properties that don't fit into the whole criteria of the timber to tide plan and what you want to do. We have a lot of odd shaped, and we have too small or too large. You're going to end up with assemblages, possibly. But you're going to see, and I don't know if it can be addressed beforehand or not, variances on building materials, particularly those for the trades. We don't really have a great need for office and retail because our entire way of life has changed. With Amazon, online ordering, there's been less retail. That's across the country. we have less office space that is needed. Again, more people are working from home and they prefer to stay at home. Very few companies are calling them back. So our office space is less of a requirement. Typically, if you take office and retail, that is going to dictate or if you take office and manufacturing, which we don't have a lot of manufacturing, we've got the two big pulp plants, but we're not a 24/7, Pittsburgh Steel Company, here in this area. So if you take all of that together, that dictates how much residential you need. And we're putting in a lot of residential, and I think some of these numbers with the influx that you're saying that we're going to be getting, the projection, not you as individuals, but through the studies, the projections, I don't think those projections are gonna be, because we had COVID-19. That skewed everything for everybody in every industry, and there's no way that you can claim that it didn't. So I think with this whole timber of tide, we're going to see variances because the people who need the land are those are our skilled laborers. Those are our plumbers. Those are our electricians. Everybody uses them in their homes. If you own a home or if you rent a home, your landlord needs these people, the AC people. If we delegate them all out to the western part of the county, prices go up because those companies aren't going to want to send their guys out for free, and you can't blame them. So I just see that they're.
You can wrap up if you're close.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So I see that as a problem. I don't see. Just the last little thing is on all of these, I don't see where the studies are coming from, who they're coming from, because I can do a study, you can do a study, you can do a study, but we need to know, or I would like to know, how valid is that study? Is it coming from who's it coming from? Because anybody can say they're a consultant. That doesn't mean they have the education behind that.
Okay.
Those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now I have no other speaker cards on tab J. Great. Board questions for staff or any of the speakers. Commissioner McCullough.
I'll wait for Mr. McDaniel.
Sir?
I hear beeping.
I'm not sure where that's coming from. There it is.
Can we stop it?
Sure.
Mr. Macbeth, thank you for spending hours with me in several meetings and walking through this. So if I'm looking at this transect overlay correct, I have my binder with me with all of the notes that I took throughout our meetings. My question is this: when we have somebody come forward with a recreation area, I'm not even saying that particular one going forward, but if that were to come forward, how does that look playing into like these T4 and T5 transits?
Yeah. So, as Ms. Hagan said, we met with her several times, and I think all those conversations have been extremely positive. I think it's also important to understand contextually, the majority of these properties west of 95 are open rural ag. And there's not a whole lot you can do under that current zoning designation. Part of what staff did, Ms. Hagan, was to make sure that she could still do, indoor-outdoor recreation, which is a permitted use under Transect 4.5. And so she has that Transect 4.5. And if she doesn't feel that she can meet the standards, she still has the availability to look into a special district and offer a public benefit as a result, similar to if she were to go to apply for planning and development under today's standards, which is the same standards that essentially go into the application for a special district. And that's not to say that we don't, look at this product, these opportunities and services that, we hear that our community wants and needs. We're here to work with the individual and their design team to make sure that they can meet our standards and even the overlay standards. That being said, the property in question is this one over here. You'll note the mobility road, which is directly across from Police Lodge Road. This is a pivotal connection that helps extend and connect back to the future interchange to the north as part of the overarching mobility network. And then the east-west connection. Something important about these east-west connections, and we've said it in the past, is it's essential that we are not 100% reliant on 200 as that main east-west connection. Having these additional service roads that help connect our mixed-use developments to get people not on 200 into these independent developments is imperative, and that creates frontage internally to that development. That being said, it's not a set-in-stone line. You'll note that in our land development code provisions, we have a county engineer or his or her designee who has the ability to work with that individual to help locate and position that accordingly so it won't be detrimental to the property, as well as the ability to remove it if there's ever a situation where it's not economically feasible or sensible to do it. If, for instance, there's a wetland situation or a pond that makes it not capable of creating that east-west connection, we have the ability to make those changes. This is, heavy on the development review side of things and site engineering side of things, but I would just encourage Ms. Hagan to come see staff again, meet with our development services director and planning director to help make sure that concept is realized, as well as make sure her design consultants are present. I think it's very important for the success of this project. It's a very large project at 50 acres. But in no way do we want to discourage her ambition. If anything, we always try to work with individuals to make sure they can achieve their goals and objectives. But you have any more questions?
No, I had written T4 and 5 and I went back in our notes. So thank you, Josh, for just clarifying that on the record, and I appreciate that. So we're sending back to, this is still at a DRC state, like looking back and working with our staff so that we have the appropriate uses.
So,
I'll make sure she gets back to staff, Josh. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Martin.
yeah, I have a question to kind of piggyback on the same item that Commissioner McCullough is addressing. So I'm not familiar with these two roads that Ms. Hagan is referring to. Are they there permanently?
the mobility road is a permanent road. That individual who develops that road would receive credit for developing it. In terms of the east-west connection, that's a road we evaluate at the time of development review to ensure that it meets those frontage standards in accordance with this overlay. But those would both establish permanent roads if they're built as indicated on this plan.
So how do we, I know Ms. Hagan's gonna get back with you and staff, but how do we address her concern that we put two roads there and split her property up into four?
Yes, so, part of what Timber Tides does is we establish intensities, densities, as well as, available uses to that individual for being consistent with the master plan and its regulations. And in return for that, we try to meet the goals and objectives that were initiated by that 200 master plan. And probably one of the top components of that was to establish east-west connections. So from the goals and objectives and policies of the 200 master plan, these east-west connections are imperative for their creation. Like I said earlier, we'll work with the individual to see and make sure that it's a feasible road to be created. Otherwise, that connects a T4 to a 4.5 to another T4. It's not going to a road to nowhere. It's connecting her property to the adjacent development as well as the one to the east.
I understand that,
In
but
terms of creating a node, a mixed-use environment.
usually people come up here and they have a laundry list of things that they don't agree with that are generalizations, all right?
Yeah.
This property owner came up here with something that was done to her property. So I don't want to belabor it, but I would hope that we would do everything we possibly can to help her see her vision come to fruition.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Gray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions, Josh. These roads are permitted a while back. I mean, they've already been permitted, these two roads.
These roads don't exist.
They don't exist.
They don't exist now. I know I rode down there a good bit. It's agricultural, and my second one, that's agricultural land, her property's agricultural. But I'm saying, is there a permit, or was it permitted? I'm just asking that question.
Okay, I don't
Or
know.
not, is that a fair question to ask?
So the roads aren't even there yet.
No, the roads are not there yet.
Correct. As a
Why
result,
The property is agricultural currently. And what I want to know is the road's been permitted by some government agency or anything? That's my question. Yes,
You
sir.
misunderstood my question. I didn't ask if the roads were permitted. I asked if the roads were permanent.
Permanent.
They're not even there.
yeah.
They're not there.
They're not there, well, okay. That should make it easier to help her out.
Okay. So are the roads permitted with the permit from any government agency as of now? No?
No.
Yes.
They haven't even been reviewed.
Okay. That's my question. And,
Mr. Pope,
Thank you.
would you just clarify that comment?
Josh, is there ability to pull up the regulating plan and zoom into this particular area to get a sense of scale? And while he's doing that, the location of these corridors are not arbitrary. So what this does is creates a four-way intersection at State Road 200 and Police Lodge Road and this northern road that goes up to the new interchange road. So we're going to have a new interchange on I-95 between 17 and State Road 200. There'll be a road from that interchange that goes west over towards Griffin, Musselwhite area. And there'll be roads that go from State Road 200 north to that new connecting road. Ms. Hagan's property sits in the location across from Police Lodge Road, which will be a four-way intersection. And so the location of that north-south access is based upon the existing roadways on State Road 200 and getting up to the interchange road. Now, in terms of the east-west road, hopefully Josh can get that pulled up on the overhead and the guys can put it up for us. As Josh said, it connects a series of properties that are there, and when you look at it from an urban standpoint, when you have 200 acres of land that's developable, you have to have cross-connectivity between that. That is, when you look what happens out here at Chester and State Road 200, imagine not having cross-connectivity between all the developments at Chester and 200. You have to have an ability to go east-west, or otherwise you fall into the same traps that you have of going in and out of State Road 200 to get from point A to point B and no interconnectivity, which is precisely what we're trying to avoid as development moves westward. We're trying to not create the same mistakes previously. And so we are committed to working with all the property owners on the corridor to make sure they can execute. But as Josh pointed out, today, it's open rural, agricultural, no zoning and land use and permit high-intensity development, and it's consistent with your overall mobility plan to have these north-south roads connect up to future interchange that gets trips off of State Road 200.
Thank you, Mr. Pope.
So if I may, Mr. Pope, the same could be true of Edwards, right?
Edwards is
In
the
that-
same thing.
Right?
Is that road real?
No.
The black and white squiggly, it's on the tax parcel, it says like Rainier Road, but is that a real road right now, Mr. Pope?
So there are numerous timber roads throughout Rainier
Yes, sir.
Holdings and other holdings. None of them per se are open public roadways. So when you're traveling west from I-95 and State Road 200, you have really three major intersections, with Edwards Road being the first major intersection and Police Lodge Road essentially being your second major intersection. You want to align your intersections to have four-way intersections in the future. You're going to need that.
So and I apologize, this is not in any way grammatically correct, the squiggly line in the middle, that's coming out of the tributary neighborhood, correct?
So all three of these do. So Edwards Road, the main entrance to Tributary, and then Police Lodge Road all come out of the Tributary development and go north up to the new interchange road.
Okay, yes, sir. So the squiggly line, even though it's not dark blue, will be a connecting road?
Yes.
Okay,
Ms. McCullough, are you referring to this?
No, sir.
South on-
If you'll go, nope, now just go one over, Josh. My, your left. A little bit more. A little bit more.
Towards Edwards Road.
Towards Edward Road.
There we go, that squiggly line, yes, sir, right there. Even though that's not blue, that will be a connectivity road.
Yeah, so if you'll note, so for the clerk, this is the attachment B for CPA 25001. It's the map flume 11. So you have a legend up here that indicates the types of roads. And so you have a neighborhood street, you have a main street, cross-access trail mobility network are the 5 main categories. So those blues are representing your mobility roads. Your red is indicating a type of main street. This is indicating in yellow a type of neighborhood street. And you'll note that those create new nodes. So you have Edwards node that would be built out and has future signalized intersection plan. And you would also have a node eventually being built out over here at Four Creeks. And you can see lightly underneath what's happening juxtaposed to that, which is the tributary DRI. You can see the commercial developments that also juxtapose those higher transects and establish that node. More importantly, you have, potentially 3,200 homes being built back here in tributary that are directly across from currently undeveloped land. And so establishing those intersections, those town centers, those east-west connections have been pivotal to the objectives and policies of the SR 281A Corridor Master Plan, as well as the Timber to Ties Design Overlay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to belabor this anymore. However, I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, and I'm confident that staff is already doing this and will continue to do it. Just let's work with Ms. Hagan as much as possible to help her see her vision come true. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Josh.
Do you have an additional question from
I do not.
Ms. Hagan? I think that we're okay with that. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
So I'm not opposed to road expansions. Yes, like keeping people off of 200 is a given. However, my parcel is 50 acres. The neighboring people is a car dealership. And then the neighboring properties that Edwards Road and Tributary Road go through is Rainier-owned property. They're part of this wildlife development, Timber to Tides. They're corporately owned. These are roads going through their property. The mobility road is going through my personal property. That's the problem. And as far as the east-west road, if I'm making a recreation area where people park in the parking lot and they go and they spend the day there, it's not necessary to commute from property to property. It's just not necessary. There's, people would spend 10 hours at my place. It's just the location, and with the other property being Rainier owned, putting roads through there, this is their project. They're part of this project. But anyways, that's what I just wanted to clarify.
All right, I'm going to close the floor for public discussion or deliberation. My comment would be to my fellow board members, we are going to find these items going forward that are going to require adjustments and whether it's, you want to call it a variance or whether you want to call it a change of plans, those things are going to happen going forward when you create these kind of master plans and implement them. I believe that the vision that we see here is for the betterment of Nassau County and for the control, the vision and the growth that we want to see along the 200 corridor. And if we don't, we're just going to end up with sprawl. And that's why, frankly, I support this plan. We've been working on it a long time, with a lot of public input, and with sound professional consultation. And I believe that we can fix the one-offs, and it's my intention to support this going forward. Any other comments?
No, thank you for your comments.
I had,
Commissioner Martin.
If you have, I was
You
gonna
have
make a
comments?
motion.
It was back to just a public comment. I know it's just like Mr. Mullin said, just like we've said, we have these adjustments, but I would encourage the public to go back. They have access to this binder. It's a public document. It's all of our drafts where we've worked with staff when we went through the notes. But one of the things I have highlighted at the beginning of the book is to focus and guide development into appropriate areas, allowing growth to occur in a planned, coordinated manner. And I think we've seen a lot of that where we have not failed, but where we've really hit some growing pains in the last 15 years is having those little hits here, hits there, and there's no cohesive plan. And I think one of the beauties of the Timber to Tides is really working on a far out 100, 200-year plan that's going to alleviate the stress of growth in this county. So it has my support too, Mr. Hutman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
For tab J, CPA 25-001, Timber Tides Overlay, Design Overlay, Future Land Use Map Series, map FLUMS-11. Based upon the record, evidence, and testimony received, I find that the plan amendment is consistent with section 163.3168, paragraph 2, Florida statutes, and therefore my motion is to approve CPA 25-001.
Second that motion.
Motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner McCullough. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Farmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Chair Hutman?
Yes.
5 ayes, no nays.
Tab K. Approve ordinance 2025-025, amending Chapter 30 taxation at Article 3 gas tax, at Division 2 local option taxes, at Subdivision A 2-cent tax at Section 30-43 duration, in order to extend the local option gas tax of 2 cents until December 31st, 2054, in conformance with Section 336.025 of Florida statutes, providing for codification, providing for repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. I will open the floor for tab K for public discussion. I have no comment cards for tab K. Mr. Ironman, is there a staff presentation for tab K?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. No physical presentation, but a dialogue for you. So if you don't mind, items K and L, and I'll repeat some of the stuff on L, both relate to the local option fuel tax measures. One of them is the 2-cent item, which is item K, and then the 4-cent, which is item L. So in Nassau County, both of these local option taxes have been in place since 1986, 87. Consistent with all 67 counties in Florida, they all have the 6-cent local option or fuel tax. This is a fuel tax in place to fund many of our street improvements. So with this fuel tax, it's estimated to be about $2.5 million that would be brought in by an annual basis. The fuel tax also provides funding to the other local municipalities. So Callahan, Hilliard, Fernandina Beach all receive shares of the fuel tax as well for their street improvements. And on our side, what we have is our pavement management plan, our chip seal programs. Those two programs together account to about $5 million of annual investment just to maintain our existing road infrastructure. So this funds a significant portion of that amount. But with that, these programs have been in place. The fuel taxes have been in place for a period of time. They were set to expire. We had done an amendment to extend them in '23. The state provided further clarification that they would like them adopted within 12 months of the reimposition. So we're bringing them back forward to the board this evening to basically readopt the extension of these fuel taxes, again, consistent with the other counties, and this would leave it in place until December 31st, 2054.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Iron? Okay, I'll close the floor for public discussion or deliberation, or entertain a motion on tab K.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner McCullough.
my motion is tab K, based on the review of the applicable testimony and evidence provided, my motion is to approve ordinance 2025-025.
A motion from Commissioner McCullough,
Second.
second from Commissioner Martin. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Farmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
and Chair Huttman.
Yes.
5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you, Mr. Arman. Tab L, approve ordinance 2025-026, amending Chapter 30 taxation at Article 3 gas tax at Division 2 local option taxes at Subdivision B 4-cent tax at 30-48 duration in order to extend the local option gas tax for 4 cents until December 31st, 2054, in conformance with Section 336.025 of Florida statutes, providing for codification, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing severability, and providing for an effective date. I'll open the floor for tab L. I have no speaker cards on tab L. No staff presentation. Mr. Iron, I'm assuming the previous conversation is the same. If there
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is the same, just for the record.
Yeah.
The comments that we had on item K apply to item L as well. So the 2 cent and the 4 cent local option fuel tax, same discussion, both of these items have been in place since 1986-87. Today's action would extend that fuel tax until December of 2054. In glancing at my notes, one item that I did want to also echo is, from a perspective, our fuel taxes are essentially 30% of those that we received are paid for by tourism. And so I did want to echo that. And so having the fuel tax in place, collecting revenues from tourists as they pass through the county or utilize our fuel stations provides a benefit and helps reduce our ad valorem tax dollars as well.
Thank you. And the speaker cards. Questions for Mr. Iron?
No, sir.
Okay, close the floor to public comment or deliberation, or I'll entertain a motion on tab L.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Martin.
for tab L, based on review of the applicable testimony and evidence provided, my motion is to approve ordinance 2025-026.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Farmer. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Farmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Chair Huttman.
Yes.
5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you. We're going to proceed into quasi judicial public hearings. Madam Attorney, if you would please read the procedures.
Yes, Mr. Chair. As stated, tab M is a quasi-judicial hearing to consider LDC 25-001, an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Nassau County, Florida, amending ordinance number 97-19 as amended, known as the Nassau County Land Development Code, adopting Article 44, transect-based zoning districts, adopting Article 45, timber to ties design overlay community-based design standards, providing for codification, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This is second reading and adoption. A quasi-judicial hearing by state and case law is different than a regular hearing conducted by the board. A quasi-judicial is less formal than a court hearing, but similar in its procedure and evidence matters. Applicants have the burden of demonstrating through competent and substantial evidence that his or her application is consistent with the following requirements. As for tab M, the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan policies as identified within your staff report. The applicant is entitled to be represented by counsel, as the county is the applicant. That is not irrelevant. I represent this board. I do not represent staff in this matter. The hearing procedures will be as follows. Staff will be sworn. They will describe their application request. They will have 10 minutes. As there is, county is the applicant, we will go directly into public participation for or against the application, which will be sworn in. They will have 3 minutes to address the board and present any evidence. Extensions of time can only be granted through the chair. Sharing or transferring of time is not allowed. Public participants presenting evidence for or against will address the board at the podium. Any documents or photographs that you present must be submitted to the deputy clerk. They do become part of the official record. As a quasi-judicial hearing, large numbers of individuals for or against do not constitute competent substantial evidence and will not be considered. Staff will have 5 minutes to provide any final comments as needed or to answer your questions. The board will then close the public hearing and discuss the application. You may ask questions of applicant, staff, witnesses for or against the application. Any motion should conclude whether the board member finds competent and substantial evidence in the record and/or testimony received to support your decision. Again, the meeting is being recorded, so please, no applause, outbursts, or talking. It does distort the recording. As stated, the Office of the County Attorney represents this board and provides counsel, including advice as to procedures and relevancy of evidence. If you have any questions in regards to these procedures, could you please ask them now? Seeing none, Mr. Chair, you may continue.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll start with ex parte disclosures, tab M. Ex parte disclosures include emails, letters, site visits, or any other forms of communication. And the disclosure should include who it was with and the nature of the communication and the substance thereof. Commissioner McCullough?
I had one email and it was deferred to staff, and it's captured on my county device.
Thank you. Commissioner Gray?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've had numerous and multiple emails from different individuals. A lot of them come in today, also many telephone conversations, and everything has been conducted on my county device.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Farmer?
Yes, sir. Same as Commissioner Gray. Had several emails and phone calls. They were all captured on my county line.
Thank you. And Commissioner Martin?
Yes, I also had a variety of emails captured on my county device.
Okay, and the same for the record. I had emails received up to an hour before tonight's meeting, and all have been captured on my county devices only. So, Madam Clerk, if you please identify the documents to be entered into the record.
Documents submitted to the record for LDC 25-001 is staff report 11 pages, May 12, 2025 supplemented staff report 4 pages, June 23, 2025 supplemental staff report 4 pages, Attachment A, Article 44, 43 pages, Attachment B, Article 45, 74 pages, Attachment C, properties with existing inconsistent zoning and land uses 7 pages, Draft ordinance 5 pages, State Road 200A1A corridor impact analysis 36 pages, development standards impact analysis 80 pages, business impact estimate 3 pages, April 15, 2025 planning and zoning board motion recommendation 2 pages, May 12, 2025 planning and zoning board motion recommendation 2 pages, and a staff PowerPoint presentation 15 pages.
Mr. Chairman, I move that these documents be accepted into the record.
Second.
A motion for Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Gray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, they will be accepted into the record. I'll open the floor for public hearing. Staff presentation. Mr. Macbeth.
Did I hear ex parte?
I already did that.
Okay,
I
sorry.
did do that, yes, sir.
Thank you. Give me 1 second.
Critique from the peanut gallery.
I do. Joshua Macbeth, Department of Strategic Advancement. Thank you, Honorable Commissioners. So this is the proposed land development code change amendment seeking to adopt 2 new articles. You have Article 44, transect-based zoning districts, and Article 45, the timber to tides design overlay community-based design standards. To Ordinance 9719 as amended. Notice the Nassau County Land Development Code. These articles will establish the timber to tides design overlay, a form-based regulatory framework that applies to the land area delineated in the future land use map series, Flume Map 11, with companion application CPA 25-001. So once again, it's 2 land development code articles, Article 44, Article 45, and they would apply to this regulatory map. So Article 44 this is the incentive, right? This establishes your densities, your parameters, your uses, as well as, higher intensity development, impervious areas, lower setbacks. 45 is the restrictions. These are what create your community-based design standards. It includes those east-west roads, transportation network, edge conditions, as well as your site plan. Your site plan is going to be focused on additional shade trees, landscaping, stormwater requirements, and then you've got finishing up with the architectural requirements, including building materiality, building orientation. So those 3 sections, transportation, site plan, and architectural, are the 3 main standards as found in the community-based design standards. Of course, back in May, the BOCC had a supplemental staff report. So from the Planning and Zoning Board on April 15th, we received feedback. A lot of this feedback was clarifications, additional administrative flexibilities regarding parameters, as well as addressing phased infrastructure requirements, non-conforming property treatment, and landscaping architectural standards to improve clarity, feasibility while preserving the overall vision of the timber to tides design overlay, and attachment C remained unchanged. And then from that May 12th BOCC, we had a additional supplemental staff report. So as part of this record, attachment A and attachment B have been updated to reflect final refinements and clarifications based on internal review and public input. These revisions are intended to clarify implementation, improve predictability for property owners, and ensure the transect-based framework and community-based design standards remain consistent with the timber to tides design overlay. So those key changes, we added administrative flexibility, allowing 0-foot front setbacks for residential units fronting designated open spaces or parks, as well as the creation of a new exemption section that provides protections for existing religious institutions and historic sites, ensuring that their continued use, preservation, and eligibility for repair or reconstruction, even in the event of an act of God were to destroy those institutions. They would be allowed to be repaired. They would be exempt. So this adds from those exemptions, you have in the applicability section, single-family homes, mobile homes, historic sites, and now religious institutions. Additional updates provided clarification on the treatment of properties subject to access management standards, so everything within 1,000 feet of 200. And these updates are intended to preserve, once again, the historic and cultural resources while supporting the broader goals of walkable, resilient, context-sensitive development. And then attachment C, we noted 4 properties that we could add to this list that had split zoning, which is part of that list to help fix mismatched zoning as part of the Timber to Tides initiative. Going back to where this all began, it's been a 5 to 6 year process beginning back in January 2019, working with GAI consultants and Francis Marino FM consultants to evaluate our land development code and comprehensive plan. Through that engagement process and through just a robust analysis that went into the SR 200 A1A corridor master plan, it's a mouthful. We passed the resolution in December 21. Drafting took place between 22 and 2024 to make the document more efficient and just an overall quality control check to make sure that we weren't putting standards that weren't achievable, and then refinement. This past year, it's just been refinement from draft version 1 to draft version 2, several workshops, pop-up events, open houses, as well as meetings with developers, individual homeowners, and agents. So those timeline events, in terms of just that last year, so beginning in July 19th, we released draft version 1 to our website, followed by a series of engagement that led to draft version 2. That draft version 2 was continued into the workshops, where we received feedback from our Planning and Zoning Board members, our Board of County Commissioner members, and then additional community members that led to our draft version 3, which also got feedback. You see a pattern here, it's just continuous feedback and adjustment, feedback, adjustment, leading to the Planning and Zoning Board final draft version, and then additional supplemental reports from there to get to this final version. We publish this all on our website for anybody that wants to follow the process. Pay attention to the dates at the bottom of each document. You'll note that the version that's being presented today has a date of June, and that will tell you this is the latest version. Something that's was also brought up, speaking of refinement, we got additional feedback that we would like to address as part of this public hearing process is the built environment community-based design standards. So we've heard this early on, back during the Planning and Zoning Board and even after our March meeting with the development community, and we wanted to take a strong approach to reviewing architectural design standards when the site plans were submitted. So, working with our developers, we came up with this solution, and this solution would allow for, at the owners, so if an owner chooses to delay the submittal of architecturals, they are at risk, and they're signing this at-risk agreement, acknowledging that, we'll let you delay the architecturals. We recognize that, You need to find a builder, you need to make sure that they're willing to take on this site, but if there's adjustments to that site plan, that has to take place after the fact, it's at your expense. You will note that it says development of 50 or fewer units that are comprised solely of single-family detached homes, two-family duplexes, or single-family attached townhomes consisting of 3 or fewer attached units. The owner of a property may choose to delay those architectural rendering requirements. Now, this is applicable, not just to Timberland Heights. We have the William Burgess District, we have DRIs, PUDs that have architectural requirements. And moving forward, we're looking to work with our developers on these architectural standards to improve the quality of life for all of Nassau County citizens. But we did want to make this note and recommend this addition as a compromise with our development community. And so I'm going to go back to the other. This leads us to the economic analysis, which is also part of our record. The development standards impact analysis conducted by GI consultants. Once again, looked at several corridors. You can see, looking at Ocoee, looking at Maitland, similar traffic counts, similar lanes, 6-lane highways, utilizing form-based codes, pre-transit codes, or higher standard developments. And, the comparison of rural and suburban commercial corridors that are emerging, making sure that our development standards are not going to inhibit development. But once again, that summary, our executive summary has been provided, and we'll note in this presentation that economic development outcomes are generally modest. Higher standards exhibit slightly higher compound annual growth rates. Stronger design standards do not appear to hinder development. So consistency with the Vision 2032, infrastructure growth management, density intensity bonuses for new mixed-use developments, uses of interconnected street networks or alternative routes. There's opportunities for high-value non-residential developments and mixed-use developments with employment centers provided in the Timberland Heights design overlay, public-private partnerships to prepare shovel-ready industrial and business office park sites over 200 acres, establishment of design guidelines, dimensional criteria, incentives to promote compact mixed-use development patterns, and implementation incentives or developments that will help balance the tax base. Our objectives, FL 08, 0804, 0805, 10, 1001, 1006, discouraging urban sprawl, direct commercial, multifamily residential to cluster nodal patterns, and you'll see this is consistent with the comp plan, FL 0206. And more importantly, a copy of the entire consistency analysis is in your staff report, and the chart is provided herein with additional policies and objectives. In conclusion, the amendment is in conformance with Florida statutes, goals and objectives, policies of the comprehensive plans, not conflict with the land development code. Staff recommends approval, adopting Article 45 and Article 44 to the net land development code. PZB recommended approval, and the first reading was on May 12th. Staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McBeth. I'd like to call Ms. Glenda Jenkins.
Hi again,
Welcome back, ma'am.
Glenda Simmons, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I do. Okay, do I need to say my name again? Okay, Glenda Simmons Jenkins, 96091 LS Marston Drive. I live within the Timber to Tides area, and I'm the executive director of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Community Trust. I'm in this portion wanting to witness to my personal experience and the impacts of some land use matters on our community. In 1976, Florida Department of Transportation widened the path it cut decades earlier through black-owned land from the interstate all the way into Fernandina Beach from 2 lanes to 4. It wasn't just black-owned land, but there were black people who were largely impacted. In 1999-2000, the County Commission granted applicant Steve Head approval to build the first commercial structure within a residential community in O'Neill on a fractional remainder of residential property left from the 1976 eminent domain taking. This set a precedent for Lowe's Home Improvement Warehouse and subsequent commercial entities. On January 9th, 2006, the County Commission approved a collective of more than a dozen landowners on Mount Zion Loop within the same O'Neill community in securing rights for commercial development without development plans or an application on the table from any commercial developer. The approval changed zoning and amended the flume from residential to commercial. Ironically, several months later, in October 2006, President George W. Bush signed into law the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Act, and 10 years later, in 2016, with the county's approval of commercial rezoning already in hand, DOT, again by eminent domain, took from the Mount Zion Loop community a large swath of cultural land and a tree canopy, almost 5 acres. And it was interesting to hear a previous speaker talk about a recreational area, because that big hole in the middle of our community is what could have been a recreational or public cultural space. They took this for fill dirt and a detention pond. The board, or the planning team at the time, recommended to the board that commercial industrial use fronting A1A was more appropriate than our cultural continuation on residential land fronting A1A. And now today, nearly 10 years later, Timber to Ties will again put those same residents in the Gullah Geechee community as a whole in jeopardy and at risk of fracture and displacement due to policies that are incompatible with and unfriendly to cultural sustainability. From 1976 until today, the Gullah Geechee community all along SR 200 and within the Timber to Ties footprint has sustained some type of negative land use impact approved by the county commission that threatens our community's stability. This has happened on average at least once per decade in O'Neill, in Yulee, on Minor Road, on Cortana Drive, on Yaney Road, down Piney Road, in the Still Quarters, in Piney, on Harper Chapel Road, and on Mentoria Road. At the last Timber to Ties hearing, Commissioner Farmer, I recall you saying that the board is transparent and there are no hidden agendas. And while that might be true during your tenure, it's not possible to know what you don't know. That's why it's important for the public to have the opportunity to educate you about our lived experiences across the past 5 decades and far earlier in our history. I hope you'll give me a few minutes to complete this. This current commission has inherited a timeline of cumulative planning policies and decisions, the results of which suggest destabilizing adverse impacts to Nassau County's Gullah Geechee community as a whole. And I'll just wrap up by saying that the overlay can't cover up the injustices that preceded it, because many of us still remember. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Any questions from Mr. Macbeth or comments? No. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Board deliberations.
Board deliberations.
Board deliberation, where I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment if I can,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
please, Mr. Gregg, Commissioner Gregg.
So, and thank you, Josh, for your presentation. To address the supplemental slide that Josh showed us today relating to architectural renderings, we all got emails today from staff trying to find a win-win solution. So I'm going to propose a win-win solution with a slight modification for our local business leaders here in the county and around Florida that addresses that earlier today communication we got. And that modification is, I'm going to make a motion to approve tab N. Let's make sure I do this correctly. But I'd like to have a modification with that language that removes the 50-unit limit and restriction to townhomes of not more than 3 connected units.
IT, can you put the supplemental
And that was
slide?
the supplemental slide that we was trying to get worked out today. So as it relates to single-family detached homes, 2-family homes, duplexes, or single-family attached townhomes, the owner of the property may choose to delay the submittal of architectural renderings. So they don't have to submit them 2 years in advance to their engineering, when they send their engineering, because we all know in 2006, when everything was blockbuster booming, and we were selling homes and building homes, and people were doing really well in the country, 2 years later, what happened? The economy dropped out. So we don't want those, we want to be business friendly and don't have them to sign something and know that 2 years down the road it could change and put them out of business, basically, in my opinion. So I would like to make a motion for approval of tab M, Ms. May, with that added. Can I
With
do
the
that?
amendments as presented on the slide. And I do have a copy actually for clerks if you'd like one later. Is that correct?
No, I believe Commissioner Gray is asking for this alternative language to be further amended to remove the cap of 50 units and
Yes.
to remove the restriction on townhomes not exceeding 3 attached units.
Correct.
So it would essentially allow for single-family residential development, townhome development, and duplexes at the developer's risk, the owner's risk, delay the submittal of the vertical draw renderings.
Yes, that's correct. I will work with staff today a little bit, and that's what I like.
And Mr. Macbeth is actually striking through the language that you're removing.
Excuse me?
Mr. Macbeth is actually working to strike through the language you're proposing to remove on that slide.
Okay.
So it will also be in the record for them. Clerks also have a copy of it without the proposed language, so I'll give you a copy of that as well. And I believe that your intent has been made.
Okay.
And motion made
That's
with
motion.
that amendment.
Motion made with that amendment for tab M, and I can read it if you like, Mr. Chairman.
Please, I'd like it read into the record.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just see this language now that we've had the strike-throughs on before you proceed? Thank you, Mr. Gray. I just meant, time out for 1 second, that I could read appropriately. That went fast, and I just want to read real
Yes,
quick,
ma'am.
Ms. May.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for interrupting, Jeff.
No, you're
Okay.
fine.
Thank you, Josh. I just don't want to proceed forward till I can,
Mr. Chairman, while
Commissioner Martin.
While Commissioner McCullough is doing that, I'm gonna need to, like a 2-minute recess.
Yes, I'll
Understand.
second that.
Okay.
okay.
While you work that slide, Mr. Macbeth, I'm going to call a 2.5-minute recess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
I'm an Amazon.
Madam Clerk, are you ready to reconvene? Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Thank you for that break. We appreciate it. Mr. Macbeth, let's
Okay.
pick up where we left off here on amending this amendment.
So I believe Commissioner McCullough wanted to read it with the strike-throughs, so
I'm-
we'll give
I'm-
everybody a chance.
I'm sorry, thank you,
You're
Josh,
good.
just 2 seconds. So now we're saying a development, no matter the size, if it only has single-family homes, they will not do a pre-engineered site plan?
So if you have a development that comes in that's within the timber tides overlay that solely consists of some combination of single-family homes, duplexes, or townhomes, they can come through, get their site engineering plan, their horizontal construction plans approved, but they don't have to submit their vertical, the architectural renderings of those structures until a later point. The triggers of those later points, what it says is you can't commence construction, whether on-site or off-site. You can't receive preliminary plat approval, and you can't receive a building permit until those renderings have been submitted, reviewed, and approved. And so you can't actually build anything. And the thought process is, in the event that the design of the vertical component of the project necessitates a change to the horizontal design, that you can go ahead and make those amendments prior to the commencement of construction without too much adverse impact. What we would like, what our request would be, is that if we're going to go that route, we would like the owner, the developer, whomever, to acknowledge that in the event that they put off the vertical component of the project and it necessitates changes to the horizontal components, that they recognize that's a risk they're taking, and any delays in their project, any cost associated with it, any changes they have to make, that's their risk, and if they're willing to take the risk, then so be it.
So with that, you got any other questions?
I did for Mr. Pope, if Mr. Chairman will allow.
Commissioner McCullough, go ahead,
Or
please.
Mr. Macbeth.
I did want to elaborate real
Okay.
quick. So the built environment, community-based design standards is separated in 2 sections. You have your multifamily mixed-use environments, and then you have these single-family duplex, these less dense, different typologies. So it's still saying that if I'm a multifamily developer coming in, I'm going to put an apartment complex down, I'm going to have to submit the architecturals at the same time as site engineering. However, for these single-family homes, duplexes, single-family attached townhomes, you still have to submit them, but you can wait.
Then wait.
Right, but I believe if I understand this correctly, is what they're saying from what Mr. Gray is relaying from, is that sometimes they don't know that part yet.
Things can change over 2 years.
Or things can change, right? So they're looking for a little room in there. But what we're saying in return is, let me read this again, commencement of on-site.
Then we're saying if you do that, it's your risk.
It's at your risk, but is that a burden now on the developer and the staff? Is that why we originally put in that vertical and horizontal needed to be submitted simultaneously, so that way we're up to standard and we have that review done in one single step? Oh, that would be a Josh
That would be their-
question.
their-
Okay.
their
I
question.
mean, so
Okay.
I'll elaborate a little further on the kind of perspective. A lot of these development types, you don't know, which developer is coming in to be the builder. You know, you are the land developer, you are partitioning out these pieces, you're establishing your site plan. And so it segments off these different subdivisions, and then they go off and sell those subdivisions to the builder. And then the builder has to make sure that this configuration works for their design, and typically they have, you know, a pattern book of all the different elevations that they're used to using. And they would work with staff to make sure that, you know, those elevations are consistent and compatible, not just from an architectural perspective, but that they can put it on that site and make that configuration work. Because once again, with the transects, those buildings are going to be pushed up. You're going to have different garage and alley configurations. So there's a lot of site manipulation that's happening. And at the scale of these units, single-family homes, single-family detached townhomes, duplexes, they are more manageable from a design perspective versus something like a multifamily development apartment complex. You really need to know that configuration, that orientation from the get-go. I do think this is a good middle ground and compromise, and staff recommends, you know, these changes with the added removals. And I'll just note, you know, the removals was to target, or the original language, the 50 or fewer, was to favor our smaller developers, but this just creates an equal playing ground. So it's still within the means of compromise.
Yes, sir.
And also to eliminate a loophole of having to be right up against the, where the permits were out, right?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Wait, is there any further public discussion, or excuse me, any other commissioners? If you're about to make a motion, I just want to ensure we've all had an opportunity to address the concerns that we had.
Good.
Seeing none. Mr. Farmer.
I just want to say that, just as on the record, you know, through the dialogue, that I'm a big private property rights guy. I do not, nor will I ever support eminent domain. I think staff done a very thorough job of listening to taxpayer concerns and answering our questions, making amendments where they were deemed necessary. As we move forward and we reach stumbling blocks, as I know that we will, our common sense approach will not change. Thank you to everyone who reached out to me and offered up their time to meet with staff throughout this process. And it's my opinion and other counties' opinions and other professional planners' opinions that form-based zoning not only adds extreme value through the corridor, but it makes good sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Mr. Gregg.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just gonna make this statement.
Okay.
Any overlay land development change codes we go through, we always sometimes, even though we have great planning and zoning staff, we always have to come back and tweak things, make things work for us. So, and I think you alluded to it as well earlier, Mr. Chairman, that it happens in just about everything you do in life. With that, I'd like to make a motion on tab M, LDC 25-001, Terminated Ties Design Overlay, Article 44 and Article 45 of the Nassau County Land Development Code, based upon the record evidence and testimony received. I find that there is competent, substantial evidence pursuant to the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan policies as identified in the staff report. And therefore, my motion is to approve LDC 25-001 to include the supplemental strike-through language we did for section 450503. Is that correct, Ms. May?
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Gray.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Farmer. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Farmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Chair Hutton,
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
The motion passes. General public comment. Comments for items under the authority of the Board of County Commissioners. Time limit is 3 minutes. Ms. Jackie Osborne.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to address the group. As you know, I volunteer at the animal shelter. First off, our current count of the animal shelter animals, there are 100 dogs in the kennel. 67 dogs are in foster. There are 92 cats in the cattery, and 76 cats are in foster. Almost 79 79% of the cats in the cattery are kittens, okay? Almost 100% of the cats in foster are kittens. That's first. When I was working on this report this afternoon, the temperature was 90 degrees outside. If you leave an animal in a car in the summer, the temperature rises dramatically. At 30 minutes, the temperature increases by 30 degrees, 1 degree per minute. So at 30 minutes, the temperature would be 120 degrees. At 60 degrees, the average car is 43. At 60 minutes, it's 43 degrees hotter. And 90, it is going to be 138 degrees in the house, and I'm sorry, in the car. Bottom line here is don't leave the animal in the car. They're stressed enough. Leave it at home. Let it sit on your sofa and be cool. Rover and Bella don't want to go over to Publix with you. This brings us to the temperature of the pavement. During the summer months in Florida, asphalt pavement can reach a temperature of 140 degrees. So if you're going to be outside and you put your hand on the pavement and you leave it there for 5 seconds and it's hot, it's doing the same thing to the paws of your dog or your cat. So take advantage of the non-peak hours before, 9 in the morning and after 7 at night. Use grassy or shaded paths, stick to grassy areas, dirt trails, or shaded sidewalks to protect their paws. The next issue I have is heartworms. Heartworms are parasitic worms that are transmitted to dogs by infected mosquitoes. The microscopic larvae develop under the skin, migrate to the blood vessels of the heart and lungs of the infected animal, where they rapidly grow, becoming adults that are 5 to 12 inches long. It's suggested that dogs should have their pet tested every year and given heartworm prevention 12 months. Disease is very painful and can be deadly. Several years ago, at one of the animal expos down at the Jacksonville Fairgrounds, they had a dog that started throwing up, bleeding inside, had heartworms. Before they got him to the vet, he was dead. Okay, this is positive, y'all. By the way, 90% of the dogs that are in foster right now are there because they have heartworms. And they're there being taken care of, and it's a better environment for them. They're getting medications like they should be. NCAS will be attending the mega adoption event this weekend in Jacksonville at the Jacksonville Fairgrounds. They will be taking 80 cats, 80 dogs down for adoption. While it sounds like it's real simple, it's more than put the dog in the car, we're ready to go. Petco is paying for this, and we appreciate that. And it goes Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 6. Last of all, thank you so much for listening to me go on and get confused and lost, and for working to make sure we are moving forward on the effort to have a new animal shelter.
Thank you, Ms. Jackie. Mr. Tom Cameron?
Tom Cameron, 1518 North Park Drive, Fernandina Beach, Florida. I'm here to represent Babe Ruth and the city of Fernandina. First of all, I want to thank this commission for granting $50,000 last year to the city of Fernandina, which we got the grant for $50,000. The initial bill was $135,000. So Babe Ruth has raised the additional funds of $85,000. We are about 80% of the way through the project, but most of all, we're 336 kids away from August 15th, which we hope that will be in play. I'm inviting each and every one of you to the ribbon cutting. When that takes place, it's unknown at this time. It will be at TBA. We were so fortunate to get a contract that encountered everyone that lives in Nassau County that works on this project. There's not one person nor one organization or construction company that did not come from Nassau County. That was a goal of not just Babe Ruth, but the city of Fernandina. And it's important that we support our local construction and businesses that operate in Nassau County. Again, thank you for your wonderful donation, but I have a special thanks for Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin gave us a special money out of his own pocket and helped support this project. And again, thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify, that was for the batting cages.
Sure.
I don't think Tom said that at the beginning.
Yeah,
I
it's the
missed it.
batting, oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
it's
so
the batting cages.
At the ballpark, yeah. Tom, could you give him a little detail on what those batting, this is like state-of-the-art stuff.
This is going to be something that nobody has ever seen before. And the last one I saw was up north that I was part of. And with the growing interest in baseball in this county, we now have 336 kids. We have maxed out at our baseball fields in Fernandina. But most of all, we have given the opportunity for a lot of kids to go on. And not to brag or anything, but Fernandina High School and Fernandina Middle School were very successful again this year. And they all came through Babe Ruth. So that is a wonderful way of looking at how we're helping these kids get to the next level. And that's our job. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your thinking of how we can better our relationships between Fernandina and Nassau County with our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Daniel Heath?
Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Heath's coming up, he's going to be speaking on behalf of Community Baptist Church. I want to personally thank him for coming here today and giving this speech and reaching out to our community here as he comes to the, we really appreciate you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, I appreciate it. Daniel Heath, 85326, Winona Bayview. So as Commissioner Gray stated, I am here, there's no ask, I'm not seeking anything, I really just wanted to come on behalf of our church, on behalf of Community Baptist. They've been around, they've been a stalwart, just a part of the community since 1961. I've had the privilege of being pastor there just since December, but from the time I got there, the folks there were ready to hit the ground running as far as being an outreach to the community. So my goal here tonight is honestly just on behalf of them to make the commissioners and by extension your constituents aware of ways that we're hoping to be a resource to the community. So as of a month and a half ago, we began the first and third Tuesday of every month from 9 to 11. We have a food pantry, and it's first come, first served. There's no requirements. Our goal is every family that comes through, we try to get them at least a week to 10 days worth of food to get them through. And this past Tuesday, we fed a little over 100 folks altogether. And so it's been a blessing, but our goal is just, again, to meet the needs in the community. My wife, I was telling Commissioner Gray earlier when I got a chance to speak with him, my wife has been teaching at the high school. She's the English department chair at Yulee High School. And so we've been involved in the community for about 6 years now. All my kids are in school here. And so we've begun to see the need more and more. And there's a lot of great organizations, great ministries doing things, and we just want to be a part of it. But mostly I did just want to try to get the word out. However we can help the community, that's what we want. So it's the first and third Tuesday, 9 to 11. And July 26th, we're doing a back-to-school giveaway. We just have 50 backpacks we're filling with school supplies. And again, we're hoping to get the word out to those that need it most. And I'm hoping that as I get the information to you all, maybe you can help get the information to those who need it most. But I do appreciate you allowing me to be here, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer?
Yeah, I was going to just suggest, do you happen to know Ms. Turner over at the Community Stewards of Yulee? If you don't, I would strongly suggest that you meet Ms. Turner, and if you can link them together and get her number, because they do a very similar backpack drive, and she's connected with some resources in Yulee that you may not be aware of, and you guys could probably collaborate.
So he's talking about Miss Judy Turner with the Community Stewards of Yulee, and Pastor Heath, I can give you her contact information afterwards. Yep.
That would be great. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you all for the time.
Thank you, sir. And that is all the speaker cards I have. If there's anyone left that didn't put a card in but intended to speak, just raise your hand. Okay, thank you, folks. County manager's business. Mr. Pope.
No additional business, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. County attorney.
I have no further business, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner comments. I'm going to start with Commissioner Farmer tonight.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This past Wednesday, I've crammed everything into the week early, and told you guys I was gonna sneak off. I get about once a year, my buddies will call me and ask me to fish in the fishing tournament. And I've never been over to the Gulf Coast over there, so I thought it would be a really cool event. Jumped in the truck, took about a 4-hour and 30-minute drive over to a place called Sandestin, which is over there just next to Destin in Walton County. And there were 78 boats in the tournament. Unbeknownst to me, because of the size of the tournament, I didn't even know it until I was just messing around on social media that we had another local boat in the tournament out of Jacksonville. And Spencer Ross over here at Chelsea Marine was fishing with those guys. I'd have walked over and said hello to them, but they ended up winning a little money back, and just want to congratulate those guys. The team that I fished with, we were out of 78 boats. I think we were tied for 7th place, which is a little out of the money. I think those guys, they only pay the top 3 spots, but what a really nice place. If you haven't been over to check that area out, that Baytown Wharf over there in Sandestin, way out of my financial means, but I just got some buddies that have way more money than I do, and they give me the opportunity to be the sandwich and the beer guy, and so I'm just thankful for that. Miss Linda Clemens over on Horseshoe Circle over in Briceville, she called me a few weeks back, and I set her up with Road and Bridge. She called today and just, man, she spent about 10 minutes on the phone with me today telling me how heartwarming it was to know that our people truly care. They spent a lot of time with her out there, David Hearn, and they placed her a dead-end sign on her road because the people were apparently turning in, I think it's honeysuckle if I'm not mistaken, but they were turning in and going down and turning around in her yard, and it was all her private area, and because it was a dead end, they needed to go down and put that signage up to increase awareness that it is a dead end in that private property. And she just, man, she went on and on for 10 minutes thanking us. She said, I know you probably don't get very many thank yous. You probably get a whole bunch of, adverse calls, but I called today to tell you guys that you guys really responded very, very quickly in a timely manner, and I appreciate you guys doing that. So I want to pass the word along to our Road and Bridge crew and thank them for helping out Miss Clemens. Hurricane season is right here on us. Change your oil in your generators, and please go out and create a storm kit. Be smart, educate yourself on the potentials of storm surge, flooding, and high winds, and be prepared. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pleasure. On Wednesday, June 18th, Commissioner Huffman and myself attended Taylor Morrison's new project, Headwaters at Lofton Creek. This project here, we'd love to see it come to fruition. It will incorporate a new kayak launch for non-motorized boats. Separate them over there from Melton Boat Ramp. I'm getting a lot less viewer calls, but it's a nice development, and real pleased that we've worked out a deal with the county on the PUD to have a kayak launch right here at Lofton Creek. Also, on June 18th, attended, Commissioner John Martin was there as well at the West Nassau Chamber monthly meeting. It's a new supportive business organization to partner with, and they work with Nassau County and other business partners in the community. It was a very good, well-attended event when the Commissioner Martin, like over 55 people showed up.
55, 60 people.
Yeah, so the West Nassau Chamber is really doing really well over there for the business leaders on the west side of the county. And I just want to give them a big shout out. So we had the pastor here. One more thing and I'll be done. On Saturday on the 21st, Commissioner Martin and myself was out at the Yulee Sports Complex for Derek, Heisman Trophy winner, Derek Henry's 2-all Foundation community event. It was a wonderful, successful give back event. He had over 300 bicycles. I see Beth out there in the audience smiling. There was a lot of county employees out there volunteering. It was a huge success. They said they had, it was bigger this year than it was last year. Last year I was out of town and couldn't make it, but it was really cool. Me and Commissioner Marston seen a lot of smile on kids' faces, and it was just really wonderful. He had all kind of obstacle courses and everything. We all can't be at everything. I mean, we just can't. Everybody, we try to spread ourselves out and cover things across the county. There's a lot going on, but those are the 3 things I wanted to bring up. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Commissioner Martin.
Well, Commissioner Gray pretty much, I think he mentioned me 2-3 times there, so he kind of covered most of what I had to say. But just to elaborate a little bit more on the Derrick Henry event, thank you, Derek, for the autographed football that I got. I mean, I guess if you're the chairman and you're from Maryland, because he plays for the Baltimore Ravens now, you get an actual, real, full-size football.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I don't want to brag, but I may have
great guy, he is. I mean, I put Commissioner Gray had his family take a bunch of pictures, and he shared them with me. I just put one picture of Derek, myself, and Commissioner Gray at the event, and threw it on Facebook, and almost 300 people have liked it, and everything's positive. They appreciate, everybody appreciates what he does. He does this every year. So I'm figuring 300 bikes, 300 backpacks, it has to be $75,000, maybe close to $100,000, that wherever it comes from, whether it's out of his pocket or his foundation donations and all that stuff, whatever. Kudos to Derek Henry for giving back to his hometown community. And also kudos to be a little more specific on the staff that was there. Ms. Moore was there, Jay and Sabrina Robinson were there, Brandon Carvalho was there, Nassau County Animal Services were there, they set up a couple of tents there. Jackie Osborne was there, volunteering. So, county employees were really involved in helping Derek Henry run this event, and I can't say enough about it. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner McCullough.
Yes, sir. I want to remind, I know we've got a lot of things that have been going on, but next Friday night, don't forget at the Northeast Florida Fairgrounds, we have the Red, White, and Boom. Our county on the west side, I know that the island usually does a fireworks show, but on the west side of the county at the fairgrounds, it's not just the fireworks show. Prior to the fireworks show, there is so many family activities, from contests to food vendors to personal, I mean, it is an event for the whole community, Southeast Georgia, Northeast Florida. It's a great way to come out and collaborate with the community together. I know we look forward to it every year. It's a great event that I want to invite all of the families out to. Saturday, the barbecue went great. It's like Mr. Gray said, there's no humanly possible way for us to be in every single location. We just keep trying to visit everywhere we can to support our community. So to see the Hilliard Athletics continue to grow, I appreciate the gentleman from Babe Ruth who was here, because that was the message Saturday and Friday night at the barbecue. It is on the community to support these activities and be that liaison for these athletes to grow. And not even, even if you're never going to be an athlete, I say if they're at the ballpark, they're out of trouble. And it's a good, safe place for our families and our friends to be. And then the last thing I'm going to end on is the vision plan this evening, the work to the staff, the 18 months. I truly do not think that the public understands the hundreds of thousands of hours of intensive mind, physical labor that goes into, from going out and setting up these tents at different events, to talking to the public, to fielding the calls, to working with the residents and the citizens. And one of the things that we're working on so hard is that we can guide a development in a way that preserves quality of life and strikes a balance between progress and sustainability. We have our land development code, we have all of these policies, we have all of these regulations. I know that the other 4 commissioners, much like myself, I don't know if y'all were tagged in it, there was several posts this week, calling to end the county commission because there's this vision plan, and we're all going to be developing every square inch of Nassau County and all these horrible things that are so untrue. And it's just heartbreaking to see the work that goes into truly providing a sustainable future for Nassau County with public benefits that minimize negative consequences, and working so hard to get this plan in place. And and maybe it's just the teacher in me, I realize that residents do not know what they do not know. And the only way that they can know is if we teach them. And so it is my goal in this seat to just be a liaison, an educator in a different platform, where I can teach residents that, there are these land development codes, and we do have rezonings, and we do have mobility plans. And it's truly, a lot of times when you have these conversations with residents, they just didn't know. They didn't even understand that there was a code, or that there was an ordinance in place, and that we have all these great services and tools and a staff that work with them. So that is all I have for this evening, Mr. Hupman.
Thank you, Commissioner McCullough. I have just a couple things, and we'll all get out of here. It's been a long one. Young gopher tortoises, when it's this hot and the sun's beating down, Miss Jackie, I appreciate dogs and cats. We got turtles too in Nassau County. And the gopher tortoises have a tendency to try to find shade when it's this hot, and they're getting underneath of people's cars in parking lots. So do me a favor, if you're down by the dune systems, take a look around under your car on, if you're going to back out of a parking space, and you'll see them trying to sprint across the road. They're not really good at that either. take your time and let the turtles cross the road, please. And you can stop and help them out as long as it's safe to do so. I've moved a couple across the roads. Watch out for those juvenile gopher tortoises, please.
Never heard the word sprint associated with the turtle.
Well, it's a good point. They're strolling across the road, but I'm going to throw in one last thanks to the staff for the Derrick Henry Day. I did not get to make it this weekend because I took Judge Steve Fulgren from our own Nassau County Courts and dragged him on a 9-mile kayak journey from St. Mary's to here for the Veterans Charity event called Cross the Line. Superior performance by the judge, 2 hours and 28 minutes, over 9 miles in the blistering heat. Great conditions that day. The money this year went to support adaptive housing for veterans with lost limbs and disabilities, and they raised over $5,000 from the one-day event. Well done. Commissioner Martin, to comment to you real quick, I just want to tell the public, I know you to be a very generous guy, and I see you donate a lot to many, many charities in this county. Today, it happened once again tonight, so I just wanted to publicly comment that I see you do that a lot. And, yeah, folks should be grateful. Headed down to the Florida Association of Counties annual conference, starts tomorrow morning. Are you going?
I can't make it.
Can't make it this year, right. But Commissioner Farmer, if you were going, I guess I'm going to have to bring his stuff back. We're going to graduate from Advanced County Commissioner Level 2, and as Commissioner Farmer would say, we can't get no smarter. We've done everything the state offers us to be effective commissioners in the education program through that. I'll bring back your trophy for you.
I appreciate it, man. Tell them thanks.
Maybe I'll have to take a cardboard clip with me to do the photos. See if we can get that worked out. Anyway, we'll be down there for that. So we're out of town for a couple of days for the conference. And lastly, to the public here still, and to the public that watches, and to the public that came and left, thank you for your engagement. Because honestly, part of my faith in what we're doing and multi-month processes is because the public has been engaged. And it makes me more assured that we've gotten it to you and you've come back, we've gone back and forth. And when you don't have a room full of people angry and shouting, I think that there's been a lot of engagement, and I appreciate the public being part of this process, because they're not going to work without you, ever. And so, Mr. Gray needs a nickel back.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, because it's a really big deal. Wednesday, Patillo Construction Company, one of the largest industrial complex, high-cube warehouse, logistic parts distribution center builders in the United States is going to break ground Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. at Wildlife Commerce Park right here in Yulee. I'll be in attendance. I understand a lot of y'all have other commitments, you can't be everywhere. I've invited Senator Clay Yarborough to be in attendance. I've invited House Rep Dean Black to be in attendance. So I hope we have a good showing, and this is a great monumental first step for Nassau County, providing jobs, good jobs here for Nassau County citizens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's a good nickelback, Mr. Gray. Thanks for that. All right, and give them my best.
Yes, sir.
I can't make this one. All right, thank you, folks. Have a great evening.
So that's Wednesday.